wasted.
Yep, we
Okay.
see it now.
Okay. So, like I said, that people have heard of Splunk. Um, they know it's in security. Number one is that they know it's valuable. They know if you know it, that minimum you're gonna make high nines, 6 digits in the door. I know some Splunkers making $200 an hour. I know some Splunkers travel worldwide. Um, I know some Splunkers that's been doing it for a month. I know some Splunkers been doing it for 10 years. And even I know this by fact. If you know Splunk, you never have to worry about a job for the next 20 years. Because if you leave, you're marketable because everyone wants not only Splunk, they want to know that you worked in the SOC. They know you're familiar with the jargon when it comes down to logging and monitoring. So to start off, um, everyone wants to. Me and Kadiri, we talked about this week, and everyone want to do cybersecurity. They watch TV, do movies. They think the hackers got their hat on. They're gonna make all this money and stuff like that. I just, I know Al and O have told you, um, cybersecurity is boring and long, and it's tedious, and you have to have passionate if you want to succeed because it's boring and tedious. So tell people about cybersecurity, I just go back to I ask them, do they own a home or do they have a house? And and they start saying, yeah, yeah, I got a house and stuff like that. So number one, I started asking what neighborhood it is, what street it's on, how many windows, how many doors, what kind of roof, does it have a driveway, what big is the garage, does it have a yard, how many dogs you have, kids, what kind of floor you have, what kind of plumbing, if it's PVC or 80-year-old pipe. How does the sewer system look? Do you have an outhouse or indoor house? How many bathrooms? So so this could be a type of house. This could be a type of house. Is this a house? It's a question for the team. Is this a house? So the answer should be for everyone should say it. The concept, it depends. In cybersecurity, it's always it depends. So this could be a house, could be a house, with different floors. Everyone look at this, they say it's a project building, but this could be a project, but this next door could be someone's house that just gutted it out and have it, you don't know. And then you have a question, is this a house? And is this a house? It's a house if you're a bear, bless you, or is this a house? So now this is correlated to cloud. What you want to know, it's a house, it's out there. It's been out there since the beginning of time. Now we want to discover what type of house is it. Because I might go to the house that is made of glass and I have a spaceship. As soon as I land, it blows up. Or it could be made out of cheese, per se. So, as a cybersecurity person, you have to start thinking about, okay, I want to be a red teamer. What does that mean? I want to be a blue team, a purple teamer. You know, it depends on what function it is. It depends on what kind of house you want to secure. So that's the first question you have to ask yourself. The second question you want to ask yourself is that, am I a team player? Everyone thinks that, what kind of team is this? So most people say, I'm this person, I'm the Hulk. I just go in and smash. No, I don't. I'm just a person I'm the art. I'm always asking why. Why you want to we want to do this? We want to patch this system. Why? We want to do this 3 o'clock in the morning. Why? I'm just asking why. It usually makes people angry. So everyone don't want to be like, oh, he's the face guy. Everybody want to be in front of the camera. Everybody want to be at the conventions and stuff like that. But everybody want to be Black Panther. But everybody want to be the smart guy. like Doctor Strange, like Wally Kadir. So you got to be able to know what's your strength and your weaknesses, and how does that correlate with what team? Because if you look at this picture, you would recognize that these persons, this is the leader of this team. So you got to work. You got to recognize I'm going to protect the house. I'm part of the team. How can what's my function? What's my uh, strengths and weaknesses? Now, you can't have an ego in cybersecurity. Like case in point, I screwed a pooch on WebEx. It happens. And remote and stuff like that. I got 4 computers in here that I'm trying to log into every day. You're gonna make mistakes, but how big is the mistake? It's a mistake. I know an engineer that made a mistake that cost $15 million an hour. He brought down the SAP system at Abbott Laboratories. He's fired, and his boss's boss and boss's boss was fired too. But it's $15 million an hour. That's a question that, like had the job wreck. Amazon will ask you questions. Have you made a mistake? And you be like, I never make mistakes. You're not part of my team because you're not learning. That means you're not doing anything. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna mistype something. You're gonna guess what? Apple makes us mistakes every month with an iOS patch. They're gonna knock down one phone on a million phones. It's gonna happen. So, any remarks? Anything, guys? Second thing, what's the difference between this team and that team? It's no different. You still got strengths and weaknesses. So you got your CISO here, you got the guy with the tools and the smarts, you got the brains, and you got the cranky old guy sitting in the corner that doesn't like anything. But he's the conscious. He keeps all the other teams in track. And this is the engine. So all of these people usually jump in this engine and go. When Log4j come out, I'm gonna jump in my go gadget and I'm gonna go find the root cause of that problem. Questions? You guys too quiet. Okay.
No questions yet. I just checked the chat room. You're good to go.
Okay.
Hey, Vanay, I got a quick question. Did you do a lot? Did you have to do?
I knew it. I knew it. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Man? Hey, really quick, man. Did you have to do a lot for Log4j? Was it pretty?
You know what? It was bad timing because guess what? I haven't had a vacation in 3 years, and I was planning on vacation. Even though I wasn't going anywhere, I was going to get to sleep. And all of a sudden, it comes out around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that Log4j, man.
And guess what? It's still going on to this day. We found the root cause. We set up alert for it, but it's still. Guess what? We don't. You're still going to sit in your network, but is it accessing anyone? Is it causing any problems? Because guess what? Every network, every house that I brought up with, every house has some kind of um, problem, some kind of um, um, I guess what you want. I want to say I don't want to say rats and roaches, you know. But something like my problem is that I have a beaver next to my house. How can I solve that beaver? Every network has problems. How can I mitigate that threat and that risk? So let me. I stopped sharing. I just want to pull up my presentation because I want to go. I can go through the blah blah blah. Y'all like me to. So so um, so I presented this to my C-level group. Yeah, couple of years ago. So I mean, a year ago, a year and a half ago, whatever. So this is a company that's my main client. Is one of my clients is Era Technology. There's a company that does voice over SAP. So let's say that um, I want to know the weather in Brazil, and all of a sudden I asked the network, and the network responded to me with the weather for one 7 or 10 days. And everyone's like, why is that important? What about if my manufacturing or I have a distribution center in Brazil and all of a sudden it's a tornado and knock down the building? Guess what? That's still security. It's physical security. Then I have to go through situation awareness. So that means I had to have in place what they call HA, high availability. So if Brazil, so let's think the young lady brought up AWS. So let's think of AWS and VPC. Let's talk about availability zone. Availability zone, and everybody make it fancy. If you've been in network around, oh, it's a RAID 5. 3 disks, 1 goes down, I got a backup. 2 go down, I got a backup. All 3 of them go down, then I have procedures that go to hot warmer bucket on my backup storage. So all it is that I have security and insurance on what happens if I'm at DEFCON 5. What do I do? So I go back to the houses and stuff like that. So we have our different kind of houses. Now our houses has a certain sort of blueprint. So this house right here is about 20 years old. I did this house when I was at the Paul. So, and
Are you sharing your screen, Vanay?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I am. I thought I was.
Oh,
See,
yeah,
thank you.
seeing it.
I was.
Okay.
See, that's why I don't like WebEx, man. You need to do blue jeans. I'm just kidding. So,
We see it now.
So everybody goes back into blueprints. Houses. Houses is first you have an architectural blueprint. How the house is made up. This blueprint, I did a class, a presentation. I had to do architectural drawing in Visio. So everyone's like, that's an old blueprint. It's outdated. My network doesn't look anything like this. But guess what? It's networks out there that looks like this still. And the reason I brought this up because Splunk is all about monitoring, log. So every component in this blueprint generates a log. So error technology, I'm about 400 million logs a day. My security team is, let's say, is under 20 people globally. So 20 people got to handle 400 million logs, incidents, and in that 400 million logs, like Al say, Log4j is sitting there. That needle in the haystack person is sitting there. So Splunk is what they call a SIM. So as O went over the job rec, a SIM is security information event management system. So Motorola has 5 SIMs: Splunk, QRadar, McAfee, IBM. What else? I want to say Demisto, but it's not Demisto. It's something else. You also going to see out there new that if you're taking notes, write this down. SOAR, SOAR. So SOAR means that if I see Log4j, I have a procedure to do incident response on it. I'm gonna let my machine do it because I got 400 million logs. I'm not gonna do that at 3 o'clock in the morning. Back in the day, I used to wake up 3 o'clock in the morning, do an investigation, and I go do an investigation of ghosts. I spent my whole morning investigating to nothing. Somebody logged into a website and it generated app of being some kind of malware. And then I looked at virus total and did my investigation high level, and the hash didn't do anything. So what I think of a SIM, I usually think of a SIM as I'm going to the grocery store and I have a smart card. So the grocery store, if you look at the when you grab your grocery, they scan. So they scan in the groceries, and then all of a sudden, whatever, eggs, and bread, or whatever. What's the purpose of the smart card? The smart card is there to gather. I want to take my data and turn it into information. And then I want to use this information for a purpose. So back in the day, you used to have sales paper. What's going to go in the stuff for the sales paper? How's my aisles going to be set? How much in this store? How many customers I have in this neighborhood? So if I have a neighborhood, let's say if I have a neighborhood in Idaho, I'm not going to sell. Let's say I'm not going to sell Beaujolais wine. I'm not going to sell Hennessy. I might sell something in Idaho. I might sell deer meat. That's going to be my top item. It all depends on the neighborhood I live in. So I'm using this information. That's what a SIM does. It collects all those logs. It turns it into information, and you're going to make some kind of inferences of knowledge on that information. And okay, case in point, let's go back to the blueprint. So my information, my data, let's start at data. My data could be Windows logs, firewalls, IDS. Now, everything has changed from the architecture. When I put my original architecture, that was on premise. Now everyone talks cloud. Now, then on there, people talk about multi-cloud. Then people talking about Lambda. Then it went to serverless. Then it went to container. Now it's going to API. Now they talk about observability. Same data, different way different lens to look at it. I got to make sense. I got to grow my data based on my house. My house could be a cloud. My house could be Elastic, Elk. My data could be Extra Hot, Chronicle, Google Chronicle, Azure. It depends. So this is old architecture. So Splunk has components. So at the bottom, I'm gonna go from the bottom up. So remember, different type of data. So let's start talking jargon data. Let's talk about data sources. So let's say if I sit in front of a customer and the customer say, I want security, then I start asking why. And they say because of compliance or something like that. Then I'll say, okay, my question is, what's your data sources? These are the data sources. How's the data sources brought in? Who's the data owner? When the last time was patched? Is it a third party? How is this native data still relevant? Is it a machine sitting under someone's desk that's 10 years old that's not even on the network? Is it someone bring your own device? iPhones, iPads, all of that stuff is entry points because somebody's going to walk into your network and hit a phishing link because someone wants that $100 Walmart gift card they have to have. Or they want to know with Kim Kardashian what color dress she has. Somebody's going to click. And then so you have to be ready for that click and how you're going to mitigate that risk and that threat. So you got your sources, and then what they call forwarders. That means that these sources have forwarders. That's just the engine. The computer that has Splunk on it, and Splunk is there to chew the forwarders is chewing data. I got your data. I got it. Now I want to output it. I'm gonna output it to what they call indexers. In fact, indexers just like a quote unquote data lake, quote unquote an elastic log stash. Same thing. Everything is the same thing. It's just different jargon because of different tools. But the principles are still there. I want to collect data. I want to have it there. I want to have it there. How long am I going to have it there? It depends on what's the compliance. It needs to be 30 days, 90 days, 365, 7 years. How much is it going to cost me? How much that S3 bucket is going to cost me based on the data I have? So thing I talked to Kadiri about that too. It's cost associated with security. Yes, it's a residual risk. It's just like if I on my car, I haven't been knock on wood. I haven't had an accident in 20 years, but I still pay premiums. Cause what if? So it's a such thing as cybersecurity insurance too. I'm sure guys I went over. And then we have search heads. I just think a search heads is how you view data in a database. You know, database viewers, SQL stuff, how to view the data. Any questions, emphasis? I know we're recording, but I like more conversation.
So a quick question. So you were saying when everything goes into, when everything is sending those logs or sending the data, it goes into an index. Could you explain that piece again?
Sure. So let's say index is just like index in the back of a book. So an index is just a server. It's collecting. But this data is coming from, let's say my network have 1,000 data sources, and I'm pushing this up to my data, and I have this big glob of data. Now I have to make sense of that data. So I have to categorize the data. My Windows log is going to have to be in a Windows index. My Cisco log is going to be in a firewall index. Because what I want to do is I want my users is, let's say if I have 4 million logs, and some users do an all-time search. So if I do an all-time search on all the logs in the data, it's going to affect search performance. That means my other users, when they press on it, it's just going to spin. So I want to categorize my data, because now I got to think about making sense of a data inside of that. It's kind of confusing. An indexer has indexes, and those indexes, and then I can base those indexes. If you elegant, you can base those indexes on different departments, like my IT guys. I don't want my ITs in my CyberArk data, so they don't have permissions to my CyberArk index, but they do have permissions to my network components because that's their job. My threat guy, I don't want him to have those type of network, because it's now we talk about soft. We talk about segregation of duties, RBAC, vacation. That's part of security too. So I don't want it's all about least privilege. I don't want one user to have everything, because I don't want them to marry things together. That's when things start infiltration out of my network.
So, Vanay, let me ask you this: if you're doing a greenfield deployment, would you parse those logs into a syslog server, then push it over to Splunk?
Yep. So good question. So at the bottom, let's say I have network components. Let's say I have firewalls, IDSs, Linux boxes, those network components. They generate syslog data. So Splunk, their preference, best practice is syslog ng, but also you could use our syslog. Now that's old school. Now everything is an API. Everything is a secret key, OAuth API call. Everything is a curl command, because I don't want to do a pull of the data. Because when I do a pull of the data, that means I have to set an interval. I got every 5 minutes, I'm going to pull a bunch of data. I'm going to go reach in and pull a bunch of data. I want close to what they call, quote unquote, real-time data. So I want to do an API, so it's always listening on that service. So every time somebody does something, it generates a service. Case in point, AWS. You want to see CloudTrail data. That means every time someone does an API call, it generates a log inside of AWS. But I want to see if I'm talking about behavior, so I want to see if this person usually doing this call at 8 o'clock in the morning, then all of a sudden they're doing a call at 3 o'clock in the morning, I want to alert. Because I have so many logs, I got so much alert fatigue. Now, write this down. I want to do behavior analytics and risk-based modeling, because I want to see my threat actors, they have a certain quote unquote MO, and I categorize that MO. So I wanted, so someone goes with that MO, modus operandi, and someone create that MO, I want to generate that alert. So if somebody calls that person with a gun, what's the police response? Is the response different? Is I said a cat in a tree? Any, good question, Al. Anything else? And guys, like I said, this is quick overview. I'm gonna take a fire hose and just push everything to you. Over time, we as a team is gonna go through it and then just start slowing down. You know, I'm gonna have the team one day build a folder. And build a folder in AWS or build a folder in Docker or build a folder in GCP. You know, so. And then that right here, I just did an abstraction of how that looked. You got your data sources on your left, and it's moving over to your search head. And I'm just using this, and I'm looking at my data. This management host, that's why every morning I log into manage a host, because I want to see how my data is living and breathing. I want to see if someone turned on a container. Case in point, I had 600 gigs one day. The next gig I had 1 terabyte of data. What happened? Oh, I just turned on this. I didn't get an email. I didn't get a ticket for it. I didn't get service now for it. Soft skills. How am I going to handle that? And is it going to blow up the system? So, like I said, now we're growing into components. This is from the web. This is Facebook. So my old network is the same here, but different nomenclature, different verbiage, same thing. Access into my network. These EC boxes is just a server. This Elastic load balancer is still a load balancer. This Route 53 is still DNS. It's mobility here, but this right here is, I want to say infinite, but it's so much faster than that regular on-premise. Because one thing, app data. Because everyone is hitting YouTube. It'll knock a server on its butt. And not only are they hitting YouTube, they're hitting YouTube from all these different quote unquote thin clients. From a phone, so you got an app, laptop, whatever. They also hidden it from your TV. They also hidden it from your blender. Can you imagine Splunk in your kitchen? I know people that does that. Me, I don't have that time. I have a job to do. So, but at the bottom here, you have databases here. This right here is framework of Splunk, whatever quote. Remember, Splunk is on-premise, enterprise, cloud, SaaS. Splunk does that too. So now this is an example of one of my early networks. This is one that I went over with Rick and Al back in the day. You know, where you have your data sources, then you have your syslog forwarders, self forwarder, network server, heavy forwarder. That's important. A heavy forwarder is a universal forwarder on steroids. Not only can it ingest data, it could do control of data, filter data, parse data. That means, quote unquote, these right here is uncooked push. This heavy forwarder is cooked data. That means I'm sauteing the data before I bring it up to my indexer. And then you notice that I have the different department. Here is a deployment server. So Groupon has 20,000 indexers. They have 20,000 indexers, I think. I could be wrong with that number, but let's say if I want to make a change on one of my indexers, I'm not going to go to all 20,000. I'm going to do a quote unquote SECM. I'm going to do a push. So I'm going to use my deployment server to make that push. Okay, and then your view and security. And then also Windows is Windows. Windows has all different type of flavors. Now the new thing is NX log. Al probably talking about elk when it comes down to Kafka logs. Windows is Windows, and then you have Azure on top of it now, and you have AD and back in the day WMI and Snare, all type of flavor. Splunk said, you know what? Let's do one big universal folder for all of it, and then once they install the app or add-on, then we'll have them select so they can help with parsing. I'm not going to go with parsing and parsing today. That's a whole different other animal. But parsing the data is just massaging the data. Data is messy. Data has fields. Data could be vertical and horizontal, huge. A Java log could be 600 lines long. One event. Event is just a log with a date. So that means I got to parse those 600 lines of that log to make sure I have source, destination, protocol, message, redirects, all the pins.
So I think we have a question. Someone raised their hand.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's me. So
Go ahead. Let's interrupt.
so question is, now I know you got I understand that Splunk is a SIM.
Yes.
And you know it deals with the parsing of the logs and is able to read all sorts of logs, as in it's has the capability of ingesting logs.
Yes.
How would you use now you also know that AWS, they have, I guess, sort of like their own version of
Yep. It's
how
called Security
logs
Hub.
get reported. How does Splunk differ from what AWS has?
You know what? I want to answer the question. I mean, it's the same but different. It's the same because Splunk is more. Let's say Splunk is more.
Well,
I don't
I,
know. It's more of a. It's more like an open source. Give me a type of log. I try to crunch it. Security Hub is basically native to AWS, but you can use Security Hub in other facets. But why would you? It's native. Like uh, Sentinel is native to Azure. Chronicle is native to Google.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody wanted to add something. Go ahead. Oh.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm just listening. I'm just
so
listening.
the difference between so Security Hub is AWS security platform.
Yes, sir.
I think as Vanay said earlier, Splunk is a SIM. A SIM, you ingest logs and you're able to parse those logs and view them in I don't know if you ever seen raw logs, right? It just looked like a bunch of gibberish.
Mm-hmm.
Security Hub is totally different. So what happens in Security Hub is all the alerts or the anomalous traffic or malicious traffic that comes into AWS instances, Security Hub reports that information. Like it'll say, you know, maybe a tour on this IP or something like that. With Splunk, so if you want to compare Splunk to that, you can probably compare it to like Splunk ES, which is Splunk Enterprise Security, where you get what you call alerts, but in Splunk ES they call notables. But Splunk logs, as we call it, you query those logs. You know, you write, you know, SPL languages they call it. And so Security Hub actually uses Guard Duty. They use AWS Inspector, Insight. And so these are the tools that you use within a Security Hub consortium as you use those tools to look at alerts.
Yeah.
Splunk, what you do with Splunk, if you want to alert in Splunk, you can write you know, let's say you want to write index equal firewall and you want to have it hit if the firewall, if this IP comes up as a match in the firewall, you can just like create an email alert, but it's totally different, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
give you like threat telemetry and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a different it's just a totally different platform. And actually what you do is you take your guard duty logs and your SecHub logs and CloudTrail and all that stuff, and you ingest that into Splunk.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so
Okay, so you can ingest the log in like CloudWatch and
All of it.
Trail Guard
yeah,
Duty, and you
yep,
can ingest it within Splunk, and Splunk is able to parse it.
Yep.
yep,
Okay,
yep.
okay.
So case in point. So like I said, we have in my what I'm doing every day, we native in AWS. Then all of a sudden, our customer started asking, we don't have AWS, we have Azure. So we just tell the customer we can't work with you? No, we have to add them on. So we have to add Azure, then we have to add Google and Extra Hop. So all of these different platforms is feeding to their internal SIM, quote unquote SIM. And then I'm taking that data and I'm making sense of that and categorizing that data and parsing that data. So when it goes to Splunk, that is my that's my window.
Single pane of glass,
The
right?
single pane of glass. That's my single pane of glass. Thank you. So so all my analysts is looking at that single pane of glass. So if they see a problem in Azure index, I name that index equals Azure. Or they have see Al, you went all the way to calculus. I'm trying to stay in 1+1. So with ES, I'm just trying to, with ES, you can start categorizing, making a notable events, making sense of that data. So if I see that Azure, I didn't already seen it. I already have an app add-on to make a visual of how the data looks, and then act on my notable event involving that particular index. Now, when it comes down, so an index, an event, and I mentioned about different platforms. What about if I did Log4j? I only don't have to do correlation. I mean, event categorization for that. I have to do correlation. So I want to say index, this index. Then I have to model that data that says, let's say that Azure, a source IP is SRC, in AWS is SRC underscore IP. In Google is IP. But in Extra Hop it says Mickey Mouse. So I got to make all of those source IP one language. That's what they call data modeling. So that's what I do, data modeling and stuff. I'm gonna go over there briefly, but that's the next step when it comes down what they call normalization. More questions? So I'm just going to switch gears because I gave you like the house and stuff like that. Now let's just talk about the threat, to the house. Now the guys, they go over MITRE, because MITRE, you have to. This is a bedrock. Kill chain and MITRE is a bedrock because you have to understand what they call incident response. It all goes together. You have to you don't have to be an expert at all of it, but you have to be aware of all of it and be a SMED and an expert in one entity or one platform. On my group. I'm the Splunk guy, but also as a recorded future guy, as a Cisco guy, as a IDS guy, because we are the owners. So if a particular in our platform, we have to go to that area. So. All right, so I'm gonna speed up because I only got 2 minutes. So what they call TTPs, and I can stop, and then the next session we will go deeper. But I want you guys to send me an email. My email is vanay.henry@gmail.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Send me a message anytime. Me, O, and Al, we talk. We don't talk as often as I like, but we talk. We text each other, ask questions all the time. We're family. So, and this is an example of, you know, a TTP, kill chain. So now all of those entities, Splunk has its own what they call CTF. They run every year. It calls the boss of the SOC. If you are part of this, you would, it's just like going to DEF CON, Black Hat, SANS, same thing. But it's Splunk focused. And these guys, like Al said, SPL, Splunk Processing Language. I mean, my record for is 100 lines of SPL. But some guys out there writing a huge amount of SPL. So one particular app inside of Splunk, this is what I would like to go over first, because everyone wants to learn the tool, but you have to learn security first. Yeah, it's a process, you know, because companies gonna ask you, they're gonna ask you the tools. They assume you know the tools. They're gonna ask you, how would you handle this situation? They go like AWS give you STAR interviews, situation, task, action, and result. That's how they gonna ask you. And then I failed at AWS because they asked me a question and I try to be smart and I'm gonna answer it in a minute. The guy was like, you failed because we asked you a question and it was too short. I want the story. I want all of it. I want the whole situation, whole task, who will work on it, how much it costs, what's the parameters, what the performance, what your CISO say, who got fired. They want all of it because they want to put you in that foxhole. So the journey is basic. Is like at the forwarding. I'm gonna collect data. I'm gonna normalize the data. I'm gonna span on the data. I'm gonna enrich the data. Then I'm gonna do the SOAR. I'm gonna automate it. But so companies right here said, hey, we can put SOAR in your network right now. I've been working on my network for 4 years. We're not ready for SOAR. We don't have the people, process, and technology to handle SOAR. My boss would like to have it. I say, hire more people. Then he goes to talk about something else. You want to spend $1 million on a product and it's going to sit on the shelf, or you don't utilize it from 20% to 80%? People buy tools all the time and just sit on the shelf. Guess who loves that? Cybersecurity sales reps and engineers. They sell you a bill of goods. Then they leave. Then it doesn't work. You call support and they can't figure it out. So you're paying for something that doesn't work. That happens. So your boss going to task you. You get it to work. They can't get it to work. You the smart guy. You get it to work. That's your job, right? I'm the engineer, right? So that's what they tell you to do. I think I'm gonna stop right there. Oh, and any questions? Because I don't want to go over time.
Yeah, if I wanna learn how to use Splunk, what do I need to do? What do I need to download? Where do I go?
I knew you were gonna ask that. So all you have to do is go to www.splunk.com. So Rick, how much do starting Splunk cost?
It costs $0.
Free.
Free and fully.
And you get a developer's license with 10 gig if you want.
That's right.
Post something on Twitter.
That's for sure.
Or whatever.
And you get fully functional search capabilities, dashboard capabilities.
Yes, sir.
So that's how I really got started.
So
What was that site again, Vanay?
So all you do is just go in Google, type in Splunk Fundamentals. If you type in fundamentals stuff and then bring it up, because I want you to take the free class. Splunk Education, they got a lot of free stuff. Also, oh my God, Udemy is overwhelmed with Splunk. And some of the classes at the low price of $9.99. You can go to Coursera, you go to Pure Site, YouTube. Splunk is everywhere. That don't make it. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it's available. Because it's cost. Everybody get paid. Everybody get paid the big bucks. Think so. Everybody get paid the big bucks because this touches everything. And if let's say if you leave a sim, let's say you want to get a job at Q Radar or something like that, you still know the principles. Let's say you just exposed with it. Splunk, you notice that it touches everything. You're gonna learn more tools. Right now, I'm learning Terraform. Why are you learning Terraform? Because I saw one of my guys in Romania. They started changing containerization and infrastructure and code, and then I'll always talk about automation and building infrastructure and code. I want to learn Terraform so I can build a server by code. If I just practice it and put it in my network in my sandbox, play with it, then all of a sudden I do it for a year. I put it on my resume. That's another one. That's another tool in my toolbox. That makes me remarkable. This is a this is a marathon, not a sprint.